Ron David Kimball of Wellington, Kansas, 72, died on June 14, 2022, at Botkin Health and Rehab, surrounded by his loving family. Ron was born on April 8, 1950, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to Richard and Edith Tickner Kimball. He graduated from Willowbrook High School in Villa Park, Illinois, in 1968. He received a football scholarship and earned his business degree from Kansas State University in 1973. He was an insurance agent for 46 years, and he was the sole proprietor of Kimball Insurance Agency for 33 years in Wellington. On August 5, 1972, he married Deborah Deanne DeShane in Wellington, Kansas. They would have celebrated 50 years of marriage this year. They raised one son, Cheney, and two daughters, Ashley and Nicole. Ron had a passion for Kansas State University, golf, bowling, and his community. He combined his favorite things to lead the South Central Catbackers Golf Tournament, where head football coach Bill Snyder and basketball coaches Frank Martin and Bruce Weber attended throughout the years. He was one of 29 former K-State football players, an elite group called the Lifetime Golden Cats, for his many contributions to the university. Ron sponsored countless youth sports programs in the community. He was president of the Crusader Club and Wellington Optimist Club. As part of the Optimists, he was involved in the community Easter egg hunt. When the organization dissolved, he continued the annual event with former Optimist Club friends for many years. Sports were such an important part of his life that he was a youth coach for his children's sports teams, including football, basketball, baseball, and softball. He also shared many hours with his grandson, watching sports on TV and learning to love sports he'd never seen before. He adored all of his grandchildren, and in return, the grandchildren loved their papa. Always the photographer and a videographer before everyone could do it, lugging two entire machines around and a light that would melt your face off. He was a lover of 8-tracks, a tasty Arnold Palmer, Coors Light, and badly burned steaks. Ron was preceded in death by his father Richard and his mother Edith. He is survived by his wife of 49 and a half years, Deborah, son Cheney and Andrea Kimball, daughters Ashley, Kendall Kerner, and Nicole Kimball, all of Wellington. Brothers Richard, Dick, and Robert, Bob, sister Catherine, Kathy, 4 grandchildren, Alex, Lakin, Race, and Alira, and 2 great-grandchildren, Eleanor and Ira.
Okay. Most of you know Terry DeShane, Debbie's brother. Of course, Ron was my brother-in-law, obviously. Somehow I've done a few of these darn eulogies over the years. And none of them get any easier. They're usually for family members, but not always. I sometimes get broken up when I give a eulogy for someone I hardly even knew, just because they asked me to do it. So forgive me if I do that a little bit. What I will ask my family is, don't anybody die anymore. Ron was a special man. I think everybody that knew him would agree with that. One of the many condolence calls Debbie received, one of the first ones was from our mayor, and he wanted to tell Debbie that he thought Ron was an icon in our community. And he's somebody that's going to be greatly missed, and I think I must agree with that. Ron went on hospice pretty recently before he died. His caseworker met with him for about an hour. She had never known him before she met with him. After that hour, without previously knowing him, she was talking to Debbie, and she said, just that hour with him, I could tell what a good man he is. Ron made such a positive impact on people, so many people over the years, family, friends, but so many people just through his never-ending community service. He left a pretty positive impact on a lot of people he would never know. He just took it for granted. That's what we do. There's only one thing that most people understood after dealing with Ron for very often. Purple always had to be a dominant color in just about anything they did. Whether it be a uniform, whether it would be flags, it didn't matter. It was purple. If you've ever been to his office, it was a shrine to Kansas State. Ron attended, some of what I'm going to tell you was in the obituary, but I'm going to maybe take a little different spin on some of it, or tell you some secrets you didn't know. Ron attended high school in Villa Park, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. He was a really super athlete. And I don't know how many scholarship offers he got, but he ended up at K-State to play football for Vince Gibson and the Wildcats. Obviously, this resulted in his passion for K-State and for the color purple. Again, everything he owned was purple. By being a K-State Wildcat, or at the time he was lucky enough to meet my sister Debbie, who happened to be at K-State during the same time Ron was there. After a fairly short, I think they didn't know each other very long. They got engaged and they got married, and Debbie says people didn't stay engaged as long as they do now. So Ron married Debbie, and a couple years after he graduated, they stayed in Manhattan, and then they moved to Wellington. Ron went to work for Don Hyten in the insurance business, and when Don retired, Ron bought the business from him and became Kimball Insurance. From early in his career, Ron became involved in community activities, not because he had to do or felt obligated, it's because he wanted to. He wanted to pay back, and he enjoyed it. And he just enjoyed people. He enjoyed working on different projects. If he wasn't personally involved, you could bet he was involved either in sponsoring it or picking up the tab for it or whatever. But as it said in his obituary, he coached all kinds of sports. I think I was telling somebody at the visitation this afternoon, I don't think Ron knew how to coach any of them, but he coached all of them. He may be able to play, and he may have fun doing it, but he didn't know a damn thing about coaching. But he was there, and everybody loved him. Everybody loved Coach Ron, all the kids that he helped, and over the years. Ron played church league softball. He was very active in his church, civic clubs. Ron's footprint was everywhere in this community. And I think that's where, a little bit where the mayor got that Ron was an icon in our community. Of all the projects, Ron's favorite was probably the Easter egg hunt. Ron belonged to the Optimist Club. He was president of the Optimist Club at the time, and they started an annual Easter egg hunt the day before Easter every year. And of course, Ron was put in charge of that, and it continued to grow. A few years later, the Optimist Club folded, and Ron was about to give up that Easter egg hunt was going so well, so it became the Kimball Insurance Easter egg hunt with Ron in charge. Ron financed the entire project. He engaged his family and friends and former Optimist members in running it every year. And again, it continued to grow. Ron actually bought a full-size Easter bunny costume. And I think Ashley was the first one that wore that. I think she was I don't know, she was 11 or 12 years old. And then it was passed on to Nicole, and then granddaughters, and one granddaughter says no, one says yes. And then other family members, cousins, whatever what I heard, and this is the first time I heard it, but I just heard it recently, and we weren't living here at the time, so I can't attest to it, but I heard that Cheney really wanted to be the first Easter Bunny. And he was a little ticked off when they bought the costume that didn't fit him. They even, I think he was in middle school at the time, he still wanted to be the Easter Bunny. So they talked about cutting out the little footies at the bottom. So Cheney could stick his legs through it. And didn't work out. So anyway, Cheney's always had that story. He always wanted to be the bunny, and he didn't get to be. Of course, Ron loved to play golf, and you'd be surprised to know that his golf cart, his golf bag were purple. For several years, he furnished small towels that go on the tee box, the ball cleaner located on every tee box. Of course, the towels were purple. But he, I see Steve Gilder, you probably remember that. But he put those on the tee boxes. And again, you heard earlier that Ron was in charge of for a period of time, South Central Kansas Catbackers Club. And with his golf background and how he loved the Wellington golf course, it was only natural that he started this fundraiser for the Catbackers. And it was an annual tournament held out at the local golf course. And each year it brought back more people and more people. And I think somebody said Bill Snyder made it here 3 or 4 times. Frank Martin, Bruce Weber, and some other football players that were kind of well known. And everybody knew Ron, and Ron enjoyed it, and it was a great event. Ron was passionate about K-State. He was very loyal. He was an involved alum, and he was very generous alum. And he also was well known and loved very much by his K-State family. There was a story going around, as long as I can remember, about Kimball Avenue in Manhattan being named after Ron. I started asking questions, trying to compare this to find out is that true or not. Cheney gave me an article that was written in the, I think it was called I can't find it now, the name of the
Notifier.
Yeah. It was in his Notifier is what it was called. That's the Notifier was a monthly publication, and they interviewed usually one person in the community and put it in the Notifier. And so Ron got interviewed. I think it was Bill Luke that interviewed him for this publication. And he wanted to know about this K-State Kimball Avenue story. And so it was the story started like this. Ron's claim to fame is marked by a foot race. And so during the interview, Ron said, as he was laughing, he says, I guess I'm supposed to be a legend. With a brand new stadium being built, the north end had a gravel road, and it didn't have a name yet. Before the football season began, they had a contest. Whoever could run the fastest and win a race around the stadium would have the new road named after them. So I guess you know who took first in the race. So that became Kimball Avenue. So I was there one time, and I saw Kimball Avenue. I thought, no. I didn't know the story at that time, but sure as heck, Kimball Avenue. So next time one of you people that go to K-State or Manhattan, and you're on Kimball Avenue, just take a look up there. Say, hey, Ron, guess where I am right now. Our family has always been very close. And it remains so today. As my brothers and sisters were growing up, and all holidays were spent at my folks' house. And as our families continued to grow and we grew up, and over time, Kimball's house became Holiday Central for all the holidays. Our families continued to grow, and really not too many years ago, I don't remember which holiday, it was a major holiday. There were 75 of us there at Kimball's house. They had a system going on, I don't know how Debbie did it, but we had a basement, we had an upstairs, and they had a swimming pool and a big patio, so we all managed to fit in and take pictures and whatever. It's always been fun. What I'll always remember about our Kimball holidays and our trips to the Kimball's house, every time we pulled up, we see this big cloud of smoke. And that smoke was coming from the grill. And as we drove up, I always knew somewhere in the middle of that smoke was Ron. He had smoke in his eyes were teared up, his glasses were fogged over, he had a beer in his hand and a smile on his face. Ron always remained close with his many friends over the years, and friends from afar. His best friend growing up in Villa Park, his name was Mike Bennett. He now lives in Wisconsin. Mike and his wife over the years come south on a family vacation, and every year they stop by to see Ron and Debbie. And without fail, when they go on vacation, they stop to see Ron and Debbie Kimball. And when Mike found out, Mike kept in touch with Debbie about Ron's health. And when he found out Ron was near the end, and it became evident that he wasn't going to live much longer, Mike jumped in the car and drove from Wisconsin to Wellington so he could see Ron one last time. That was about 3 weeks ago. And he stayed a couple days. He saw Ron a couple times, then he went back home. But he felt that he had to do this. When Ron died, a couple days after Mike left, Mike sent this note to his former classmates. He said, "Sorry to be the bearer of terrible news, but our star running back and one of my best friends I've ever had, Ron Kimball, passed away last evening." Some people just can't be replaced. The world is a poorer place, and heaven is greatly enriched now that Ron has transitioned. He says, number 28 in your programs, number 1 in our hearts. Rest in peace, Ronnie. Ron still had another great friend. This was his roommate during football when he was at K-State. His name's Danny Cafferty, and he now lives in Boise, Idaho. And when Danny found out what was going on, Danny and his brother Tom got in the truck and drove to Wellington for his service. And Danny's here tonight at this service. Danny just waved to everybody. Here's Danny. They were close friends, and that's pretty obvious. Ron's love for his family superseded everything else in his life. When Ron knew that the end was near, he was obsessed with seeing his new little twin great-granddaughters one more time. They were moving back to Kansas for Washington in late June, and unfortunately, he missed that reunion by about 2 weeks. The mom of these little twins is here tonight. She's going to talk about her grandpa here in a few minutes, and they made it to Kansas 2 days ago. So they're here back with us, and they're here to stay. There are a couple memories that Ron's kids wanted me to relay. One of them's from Shane, this special memory about his dad he wanted to share. He said, "My dad would take me to K-State football games throughout the years. We always had a great time. He was definitely in his environment. One time he was really secretive about our plans for the game. We showed up and he gave me a lanyard. We then proceeded to the sideline. We're going to watch the game from the sideline," I asked him. "Yep," he said. I was so excited. I'd never seen a game that close. And as they started for the coin toss, something started to happen. My dad grabbed me, and I followed him to the middle of the field. We did a coin toss together and got to shake the players' hands. I couldn't believe what was happening. It was so surreal. We walked back to the sidelines and watched K-State play Nebraska. That was him, full of surprises and wanting you to be happy. and he always made sure that happened. Ashley sent me about 4 pages of memories that I had to wade through. I picked out just a couple. Said Dad made the best malts and chocolate chip cookies ever. Blizzards at the Dairy Queen every Sunday night. Those are cool for little kids to remember. One was kind of interesting. It said when she was about 12, she felt like she was feeling her oats and ready to maybe try something new, so she and her best friend bought a pack of cigarettes. And they climbed into Ron's van in front of his house, and they were puffing away. And all of a sudden, the door of the van slid open, and guess who was there? It was Ron. Smoke just pouring out of the van. And they're sitting there, and their eyes about like that, and Ron says, "What are you doing?" Like, "What are you doing?" And smoke's pouring out. He says, "I know you're smoking." He says, "You girls get in the house and get cleaned up. I'm not going to tell your moms, but if this ever happens again, they'll be the first ones to know." So I don't think it happened again, did it actually? The last memory on Ashley I really like, she said Dad was the most caring and generous man on earth. When cleaning out his office, we found thank you letters from random people thanking him for things he'd done for them, even paying bills for people we didn't even know. And that sounds like the Ron I knew. Does not surprise me. Nicole couldn't come up with one specific memory of her dad, except for the fact that he always made sure she knew that without a doubt how much he loved her, and that would never change. What Debbie had to say about her marriage to Ron, she said on August 5th of this year, Ron and I would have been married 50 years. I don't know how I got so lucky when God blessed me with this amazing man. He fought for so long with his health these past 8 years. I've never known a stronger or more positive person than him. He never knew a stranger. He was always kind and generous. I love him with my whole heart and soul. Rest in peace, my wonderful husband. Give all those we love up in heaven a big hug for me.
I'm Alex, and this is Race. Ron was our Papa, if you didn't know. Papa was a huge part of our lives, and we always knew his love for us was unending. He would support us in all of our activities. He took us golfing and made sure the pool was ready and clean for us to enjoy each summer. Every Sunday, we would go drive around in his golf cart with him, and I'm pretty sure that's how we all learned how to drive. One memory that we really loved was a trip to a K-State football game that he took us on, and we had to drive there in a limo. Of course, we had to drive Manhattan in style because K-State's his true love. Sorry, Hannah. One thing we will forever admire about him is how hard he always worked to ensure that we were taken care of. He was such a beautiful soul, and we were going to miss his smile.
Hi everybody, my name is Race. My grandpa, there's so many words I can say about him, but I just thankful I have him in my life. My papa was one of the strongest human beings I've ever known. 8 years ago, he was diagnosed with cancer. And then 1 year later, he had a stroke. Even though these troubles have he forgot so that he could continue being a part of our lives. He was a big inspiration for all of us. After the stroke, he needed a little bit of help, so I came in every day and helped him recover. During our time, our relationship grew. We spent watching sports that he didn't even know that even exist. He just always liked what I wanted to watch. I just said, "Here, I'll give you the room. You watch whatever." So yeah, we spent time also going on walks, watching the news. His favorite, 4 times a day, watching the news. And chatting about other things like K-State, you name it, like what the holidays and how many people are having over bananas. But our favorite thing I talked about was K-State sports. Man, my grandpa was probably just biggest Cats fan. Wow. Those days I go in my Nana's room and see all the K-States, I was like, man, that is a true Cat. So. But most of all, he's my best friend. I'll never forget the memories I've shared throughout the years. I love him so much. He was always like a second dad to me. My grandpa was just, he was just probably the best guy you'll ever meet. He's like me in a way. He's caring, he's kind. Even to strangers, he would always he just always has a smile on his face. And I know I'm making him proud. I know he loved all his grandkids and we miss them. And Grandpa, we will see you again someday. You're my guardian angel, and I love you so much. So.
I'm Ron's little sister, Kathy, and I want to share some things for myself and our 2 older brothers who couldn't be here today. This is from our oldest brother, Dick, or we call him Dickie. He says, "Ronnie, my baby brother, I have loved you all of your life. Now I will miss you the remainder of mine. Thanks for being my brother, Dickie." This is from our brother Bob, my little brother. I always called Ron my little brother, but he wasn't little in any way, in any respect, except he was born 4 years after me. He was taller than me. He became an Eagle Scout, and I knew how hard that was. He was good at sports. He could eat all he wanted and not gain weight. We didn't spend much time together, but we were brought up with the same great values by our parents. Ron was able to attain all things that we value. He found a great partner in Debbie. They had children and passed on their great family legacy. He lived in a small town where he was known, connected, and respected. He returned to his community and society with interest, all that was given to us. We celebrate a life well lived, but too short. He leaves a great family to carry on the love. I will remember my little brother as a big man I loved, Brother Bob. My brother Ron was the closest in age to me. He was the one that got stuck with me and had to drag me around town. I loved watching his success in sports and life. He was an amazing brother, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. He was a successful businessman and community member. He left an enduring legacy and loving family. He was not only a Willowbrook warrior, he was a warrior fighting cancer. but now he is whole. Sleep well, my sweet brother. We love you and miss you. You will live in our hearts forever, till we meet again.